you very much. We have looked so much at the young people, but like one speaker said, that the young people of today were the babies of yesterday, and will certainly be the elders of tomorrow. We happen to be living in a generation where there's not so much difference in the minds, the young and the old, the male and the female. We tend to share understanding to look at things largely the same, because what is right to the young and to the old, and what is wrong to the young and to the old. So for the young people, it's just the numbers and the shared aspirations and the shared pains, but largely we look at the same wrongs and the same rights. However, allow me to go back a little bit and mention that while we are discussing the continent of Africa, especially from here in Europe, I would rather that we focus on the realities. It would be very naive for us to discuss Africa from the lenses of a comfortable European. Let's look at Africa through the lens of an African, and look at the Africa-Europe partnership and define it. Is it a partnership in crime or a partnership in the rule of law? Is it a partnership in democracy or a partnership in autocracy? Is it a partnership in good or the partnership in wrong? Is it a partnership in development or a partnership in underdevelopment? And looking at that, I think it's important for us not just to look at the leaders. Well, everything rises and falls with leadership, but let's look at the people. We look at the people of Europe and the people of Africa, and look at them as equals, as human beings, and look at them as deserving the same standard of democracy, the same standard of human rights, and the same standard of respect for the rule of law. Of course, while we have progressive African countries like Zambia, which we look at so much, we look up to so much, countries like Botswana and many others which we look up to so much, we must not forget that there are blatant examples like recently Burkina Faso, countries like Chad, countries like Mali, where there's been blatant disrespect of democracy, but in very neat suits, we see European leaders seemingly condoning that, not criticizing that, and that is to the detriment of Africa. You know, we look at countries like Cameroon. I was looking at the African Cup of Nations, where the head of state in Cameroon can barely walk, where they have to walk to him to hand over the trophy. And that's a shame to Africa. And that is something that Europe must not be seen to be part of. Countries like Uganda, where I come from, where last year, on the 18th and 19th of November, more than 150 people were massacred in broad daylight for peacefully protesting. But the world looked and kept silent. In Uganda today, pictures, images are coming out from Uganda where the son of the president will tweet and somebody will retweet disagreeing with him, and that prolific writer called Kakwenza will be picked and whipped, slave trade style. The images that used to come from the slaves of the 17th and 18th century will show up now, and the international community is just going to look at that. What kind of partnership are we having? We have an Africa today, in particular Uganda, where just yesterday the Speaker of Parliament was flown out of the country to get medical attention, but it cost the taxpayer $500,000 just to airlift the Speaker of Parliament and many other things. So in an Africa where it is acceptable for the leaders to seek medical attention outside the country, to have properties in developed democracies, properties bought with corruption, I think that partnership needs to be re-evaluated. Of course, Europe is a continent that we look up to with developed democracies, with laws that are deemed such acts unacceptable. We have the Global Magnitsky, which should be evoked for such. We have sanctions, which should be evoked for that, and many other things. I think that African dictators have been largely encouraged and propped up by the West. You look back in the days of Idi Amin, he was a Ugandan leader who was largely, cordoned by the West until they let him go. So I think a time has come for the West to let go of the evil and disassociate itself with the evil. Then young Africa will have opportunity to meet, like I said in the beginning, that young Africans and young Europeans are first world brains, but African young people are first world brains stuck in third world countries, which wouldn't be third world countries, but have third world leaders. So until we deal with that, the entire partnership is going to be a lie. But when we deal with that, you will see every other question being answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobi Wine. You made very strong points, and you actually even pointed out the situation in Mali and Burkina Faso. Interestingly, if we now take an average of the leadership age in West Africa, I presume that it would come down a bit. Obviously, if you're not giving young people a peaceful way to transition, what you will see is these kinds of transitions. And so these are the kinds of things we want to avoid by creating peaceful opportunities for young people to influence where their country is going. Now,
so I think before I say anything, I just want to say it's such a huge honor to share a platform with Bobi. I've just been listening to what you've said. It's quite easy for us to sit here in Brussels and talk about democracy. It's a very different story being on the ground in front of a military dictatorship and then pushing for those values. That is something. So I salute your determination. I salute your bravery. I salute your resilience. And it's an inspiration for all of us sitting here. It goes to show that if we're not careful, we could all slide into similar situations. So I think right at the outset, that's something that I wanted to say.